Dexter Lockhart Aaron,
Yeah.
good morning. You're my fear coach.
Hey, you're my friend and my coaching client.
You're also my friend, especially after the fear coaching, for sure. I liked you before, and full disclosure to the folks who are tuning in today, Dex and I met when I took a rock climbing beginner's course, like a foundational course, and Dex was the teacher. I went with my best friend Charles, and I have done this course, I can't tell you how many times, probably over my whole life, 10 times.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm so inconsistent with rock climbing. I love it so much, but I am not the kind of person who wants to do it on my own. So I have to wait
hmm
for someone, and then I forget how to belay, and it's like I got to refresh. And Dex is the only coach who, well, he's the best coach I ever had with rock climbing. And the thing that struck me the most was he got super excited when he wanted me to face my fear of falling. Because when you go up that wall, it's inevitable that you will most likely slip and fall if you're really pushing your limits. Now, if you're just not doing that, I don't know how far you're even going in life. But I did it, and he congratulated me so hard for really going all out with my fear. And I had to practice falling off the wall, but I didn't practice. I really forced myself to slip, knowing that my best friend would catch me and be there for me. It was a trust fall. And I
hmm
remember you, Dex, being so proud of me. And I was like, well, thank you. That felt good. And that makes me want to really fall again, but
Yeah.
in a way where I'm not afraid to fall. So, a few years later, I see an opportunity to work with Dex in something called fear coaching. And I jump because I
hmm
can feel that that was meant for me. And Dex, what is fear coaching?
Of course, that question was going to come up. I think there's a few ways to come at it. I think the blurb that is the most straightforward is that fear coaching is a process where we are exploring human potential by guiding people to build a positive relationship with fear. So the idea is through a positive relationship with fear, we can better tap into our full potential.
Yeah. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. What made you want to create a business around fear coaching?
Well, I think a lot of it is similar to your experience working with me as a coach of technical skill. The excitement that I feel and the fulfillment that I get out of seeing people learn new things in general, being able to communicate an idea that I have an understanding of to someone who doesn't have that information in their minds or in their muscle memory or in their day to day experience, being able to offer that transformation to someone else, even on a very technological level, like teaching people how to tie a knot that's going to enable them to climb, or teaching people how to use a system so they can keep their friend safe while their friend climbs. I mean, these are really powerful moments that have lasting impacts beyond that initial interaction. And so even from that technical standpoint, I find so much joy in that interaction with people and that connection I'm always curious about how I can evolve and take things a little bit further and really follow my curiosity to the end of the thread. And throughout all my time climbing, the thing that is constantly coming up as you experienced is fear. And it affects how people, not only how they physically climb, but it affects how they experience internally and emotionally and spiritually that climb. And so, there are people who can't climb well because they're so afraid, but there are also people who are climbing really well, but they're not enjoying it because they're feeling so much fear and they're constantly needing to be resilient and fight rather than flow. As much as I enjoy teaching a technical skill, when I get to connect with somebody about their soul and their passion and their emotional experience of whether it is the exciting or the mundane, I am just floored. It lights something in me that I can't really compare to anything else in my life. And helping people through the experience of fear and building a positive relationship with fear and then realizing and manifesting their highest potential allows me to do the same and allows me to tap into a source of love and connection that I hadn't found previous. And so I stick around to continue.
I love that. Listen, when we first started working together, you asked some really great questions that were basically on my consultation form. Do you remember the question that was about like what are things that don't work for you or things that you don't like or things that irritate you? What was the question?
Yes, it was what are patterns in your life that might hold you back or that we need to look out for that might hold you back?
That's it. What are those things that we need to look out for? And I immediately thought impatience. And
And
today,
I've tested you a few times.
yeah, and I know you did it on purpose, right? So what Dex is talking about, what he's referring to is his camera wasn't working, so he was a little bit late, but actually he was ready to start. It's just that there were technical challenges. And then when he did get
Mhm.
online, he said, "Hey, full disclosure, what did you say? 7-month-old baby?"
7-month-old baby who's got teeth poking through her gums, and it's really hard to sleep apparently when you got bones growing out of your face.
Yeah, and so what that means is that keeps mom and dad up.
Yeah. Yeah, we're running on maybe a handful, maybe less hours than I could count on my hand,
Mm.
which is okay. It's interesting. I find that the biggest challenges from between for me between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And as soon as 4 a.m. hits, I'm like, it's the start of the day. I don't need to be asleep anymore. The
Oh, wow.
challenge is that window where my body and my nervous system is like, I should be asleep. And of course, poor little River has no idea what time is at all. And we gotta help her know she's taken care of and support her through the discomfort and life goes on.
Yeah, and you shared with me that you are tired. You said, full disclosure, I'm tired. And I just thought, welcome to real life.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of you for showing up, and I'm proud of us for the work that we've done. And it's okay that you're tired. You're a new dad. You've got a 7 month
Hmm.
old baby. I'm
Hmm.
surprised you're here. I'm surprised you did it. Not everybody shows up.
I really appreciate your encouragement and your appreciation. And I will say to you, it is so worth showing up for. So thank you for inviting me in.
It's my pleasure. I was a little nervous this morning because I want to share some of the good work we did together
Mm,
because I feel like there are people out there who need to hear this and
hmm.
who will definitely benefit from what we have to share. And so that made me nervous because normally I'm just picking the brain and exploring the heart of my guest. And every now and
Yeah.
then I show some of my own vulnerability, but I want to go a little deeper today because
Okay.
that's a fear that I've also been facing. And you, of course, are a fear coach and you're my fear coach. And I feel very safe and I
Mm,
feel more supported in facing that fear, knowing that I have you on my side.
you do. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And it's okay that you're tired. And
Hmm.
it's okay that we had technical difficulties and challenges because I think what matters the most is how we work together to still make things happen. Maybe they don't go exactly as planned and how we
Hmm.
envisioned, but I think that everything works out exactly the way that it's supposed to. We were supposed to have technicalities this morning,
Hmm.
technical difficulties, and we got through it. And
Mine's it reminds me of I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert in her book Big Magic says that perfection is the enemy of good. And I would take it a step further is that perfectionism is the enemy of consistent action. And there's so many opportunities when things can't be perfect that people will go, I guess we're not, I'm just going to stop then. And what we are experiencing is opportunities to recognize how committed we are to this experience together. And it would take a lot more than tired and technical difficulties for us to give up on this conversation. And it makes me really grateful to recognize that priority that we can push through the small hiccups because there's a greater positive that we're going to gain from that perseverance.
what a powerful way to look at it.
Mm,
That's a powerful way to look at it because you're 100% right. And I think I'm just kind of surprised every now and then when I see people like yourself who show up even though they're tired, even though they're sleep deprived, even though they're having challenges and all of these things. They're the kind of people who just push through and they make it happen. I don't find that there are so many people who do that these days. I could be
Mm.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of people out there, and I think the more I have evolved into someone that shows up, the more I connect with my kindred spirits, and I think we are attracting what we put out into the world, and I think that's why we got to meet each other as well.
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree with that. I totally agree
Hmm.
with that. So we talked a little bit about what fear coaching is and why you got into it. Let's just dive in. Let's just go right into the deep end and talk a little bit about my experience with you
Hmm.
and just being so incredibly surprised by what came out of it.
Mm.
I came in wanting to work on a career-based goal,
Hmm.
which seems very normal.
Hmm.
Seems like a great goal to have.
Hmm.
And then by week 2, I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm thinking about a relationship issue.
Mm.
We gotta change the goal altogether."
Mm.
And you were so flexible. You were so open. You were like, "Okay, we're pivoting. Great. Great. We're
Do
still
you remember do you remember the saying that I shared with you
in regards to this.
in regards to the pivot?
I bet it's there, but tell me."
It is oftentimes why you're here is not why you came.
Oh, say it
And
one
I
more time. Say it one more time.
oftentimes why you are here is not why you came. And what it means to me is that so often we show up with an expectation of what we want or need or will receive from an experience. And the truth is that it is something completely different that we needed from that experience. And especially in the fear coaching, I would say more often than not, that is the case. And whether that is because people find a new level of awareness once the conversation starts, or if fear itself is holding them back from admitting what it is that really is the root issue, tends to be what happens is that people will say, "Hey, I want to talk about this." And I'll say, "Great." And we'll start to talk about it. And then all of a sudden they'll go, "Okay, so now I'm realizing that that was not it." and we and then we get to the core conversation, and things really start to evolve from there.
Are you saying I'm not the first person who's done that with you?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say it was not the first time that that has happened. And like we talked about, how we practice is how we perform, and that what you recognized in me, that ability to pivot and stay with you when the course changed, is from intentional practice of showing up without expectation or judgment and being willing to go wherever we need to go to arrive at the truth.
I mean, that to me is the makings of a great coach,
Mm.
especially when you're dealing with something so daunting as fear. And I say
Mhm.
daunting because I've had a fear of fear, and now
Yeah.
I've changed my relationship with fear.
Hmm.
And you've helped me understand healthy fear and unhealthy fear. I don't even know if unhealthy fear is the right terminology, but it's a fear that we don't have to have.
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah, I think I know what you mean when you say healthy fear and unhealthy fear. We can look at it through those two lenses of like where does fear serve me towards res- you know towards realizing my potential, and where does fear get in the way of me realizing my full potential? And the reality is that they're both the same fear, but it's more so how we respond to that same fear. Very similar to our little hiccups starting off this podcast. It's not about the technical difficulty, it's about how we respond to the technical difficulty. And when fear comes up, it's that same opportunity to recalibrate and decide what our priorities are in engaging with whatever it is brought up the fear. And sometimes the fear is very real and has a lot of valuable information. Sometimes that fear says, "Hey, you're in over your head. If you go forward, there's no way back, and the stakes are higher than you expected, and you haven't prepared enough. The best thing you can do to honor your own potential is to back down, to go, woo, nope, not today. Fear is there, and fear is bringing up some really valid points, and I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to, for love of myself and self-preservation, I'm going to pivot and not address this, not engage with this interaction today. And other times fear comes up and says, hey, based off past experiences, based off of imaginary negative outcomes, I'm here and I don't know if it's a good idea. And our response is, I hear you, fear. You're right. This is a risky endeavor, but I have prepared. I understand the stakes. I knew the stakes when I decided to engage, and I'm going to move forward anyway. And I need you to quiet down so that I can perform well. And it's this, that neither of those fears are good or bad, but how we respond to it and the ability to be open to those potential of either is really what defines the experience with the fear.
So it almost sounds like there is no unhealthy or healthy fear. That's not even the way that you're looking at it. You're looking at it more as the onus is on you. The
Hmm.
onus is on me. I need to decide how I'm going to approach that fear, how I'm going to interpret it, how I'm going to work with it,
Yeah.
how I'm going to
Yeah.
respond to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And fear really wants a reaction. It begs for quick reaction. And again, sometimes, if I turn a corner in the middle of the woods and I see a bear and fear spikes my adrenaline and it allows me to change course and get away, that quick reaction can be good. And other times, I think I see a shadowy shape in the woods and fear pops up and I take a breath and I recognize it's nothing dangerous and I go, okay, we're good. And I calm down that reaction and I respond thoughtfully instead and continue moving forward.
So let me ask you, knowing that one of the things that I'm working on and one of the things that can kind of trip me up, it's good to know looking ahead is like I'm impatient. And when people don't
Mm,
show up on time, that's something that definitely stirs something in me. And
mhm,
I know that I'm responsible for looking at that. But
mm.
knowing you had your hiccups this morning, did any fear arise in you at all?
It didn't today. And I think there's a lot that plays into why I didn't feel afraid. I think a part of why I felt comfortable through the hiccups is a vast amount of experiences having hiccups and things still going well. And so I've had that practice and be validated enough times that I'm okay with hiccups. I also, knowing you and knowing that you being patient with people and that hiccups might trigger your nervous system a bit, but also knowing the relationship that we have cultivated and knowing that I guess feeling that we had established a groundwork that was stronger than your whatever challenges you might have with being patient, I believed and was willing to bet on and stay calm knowing that you'll give me a chance to figure it out.
You were right about that. I'm wondering also, are you just so tired that you don't have the energy for fear to come up?
I would say that normally fear comes up a lot quicker when I'm tired, or at least my response to fear is a lot less reliable in a positive way. But no, I really would give credit to the consistent work that we've done. Now, on the flip side, if I had had technological hiccups multiple times, and I mean 3 or 4 times in a row with our sessions, virtual coaching sessions, and that had become a pattern, I would be sweating bullets because I would be aware that I was creating a pattern and an expectation and that your impatience was warranted, that I would need to own that experience. That's something that is a big part of my coaching and I think why I am an effective coach is my awareness of pattern recognition. And it always starts with myself. I'm very self aware. Oftentimes that can be self conscious, but very aware that one time is okay. And if there's going to be a second time, better be a lot of positive times in between. You're right. Like I need to set the foundation and show up in a way that it is not the expectation that I am having technical difficulties and dropping the ball left and right. And when that starts to become a pattern, it's really time for me to check in with myself and go, okay, well, it can't just be a mistake now. If you're doing it over and over and over and over, what do you need to change to do better? And so, yeah, the today was they felt honest. I didn't feel like I had messed anything up. I also recognize that I don't have practice with this app. We're doing a new thing. We're performing without practicing, which is a high stakes endeavor. And so I think that allows me more space to be like, we're gonna go with the flow, we're gonna roll with the punches, and we're gonna learn while we go, and that's gonna be okay.
When you said that it allows you more space to be more understanding, it's like you're giving yourself grace
Hmm.
around that, knowing that we're trying something without practicing. We're just going for it. And I love that you mentioned that my irritability around impatience can be warranted at times. That is so fabulous to hear because I don't want to go around justifying my impatience all day. Certainly not.
Hmm.
I don't want to be that person that's like, my feelings need to be checked all the time.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
there are times when the feelings around impatience are going to be valid.
Hmm.
So that was
Hmm.
great that you acknowledge like, hey, if this is a pattern where I'm continuously doing this, and fortunately I am self-aware enough to notice, then yeah,
Hmm.
fear is going to arise more easily.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
asked you originally, well, maybe fear didn't come up because you're tired. And the reason
Mm.
why I asked that is because, myself included, people, they work themselves to the bone. They work out furiously. They party. They do all these things that exert so much energy, sometimes to avoid fear.
Mm.
Because they're not going to have the bandwidth. They're not going to have the energy to really look or to even feel it because they're going to be so exhausted.
Hmm.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think there's so many ways that we can distract ourselves from certain emotions and experiences. I would think that those people are still experiencing fear, but they are working to distract themselves and deny the opportunity to really look at it. And so it is a form of self imposed suffering where the fear, oftentimes people will ask me, like, okay, are you going to teach me how to get rid of fear? Like, I don't want to experience fear anymore. And I'm like, nope, I'm not here to teach that at all. I really need you to experience fear. And that's a very human emotion. It can save your life. And I understand why it can be frustrating. I think it is by design an uncomfortable emotion because it's trying to get our attention and let us know something needs to change for our safety. So, people who are go, go, go without any introspection or time to ponder are missing out on allowing that fear to move through them. And instead, it's just stuck and they can push it deeper and deeper, but it ends up at the bottom of the bottle, but it doesn't ever leave.
That is such a insightful way of looking at it because I kind of knew inherently that folks who distract and avoid are still facing fear.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're definitely facing fear in those moments, but they're also avoiding, so afraid of fear. And one
Hmm.
thing that I've done differently out of the work that you and I have done together is not only facing it, but I'm embracing it as well. In particular, the feeling of grief.
Mm.
Through my work with you, I let go of not one, but two relationships
Hmm.
that I had been wondering about for a while. You created a space where I immediately felt safe and heard and validated in all the things that I need
Mm.
to be able to explore what it is that I already know. The answer was always there. I just needed to feel safe enough and held enough so that I could make the decision that I was afraid of making.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is, if you're going to do this work, and I sincerely hope that you do, anybody who's listening, you are meant to listen to this for a reason. Whether it's working with Dex or another coach, you're meant to do this work. I can say that with working with Dex, I felt so safe and so comfortable that I was able to finally make a decision on something I had been thinking about and pondering on for months, possibly years.
Mm.
When I'm getting real, possibly years.
Wow.
After making some high stakes decisions, if you will,
Hmm. Hmm.
immediate relief. I felt immediate relief, which just signals to me that I made the right decision. And at the same time, I welcomed grief to come in because that is sometimes part of the process. And I think people try to avoid grief because it's so sad and it's so uncomfortable. And at times it can feel like lead, like you're so heavy and weighted down and you're not your best self and you're not shining. And it's like, okay, well, that's one way of looking at it. But what if I became friends with grief?
Hmm.
What if I invited grief in and say, "Hey, I appreciate you and I know that this is a natural part of the process. Why don't you come on in and you stay as long as you need to and we're going to get through this together." And I
Hmm.
can't tell you what a difference it's made. I don't know if more grief is coming, but just reframing it that way in my mind has made the world more wondrous and lighter, and I feel more empowered and more hopeful and more inspired. So I just want to thank you.
It's an honor, Kat. And I love the way that you are describing it. And it's so important to reiterate that fear and grief are natural parts of the human experience. And I would say essential parts of the human experience. There's so much valuable information that we can get from both of those feelings. And the more that we resist and avoid, the bigger control they have on our lives. And they are absolutely uncomfortable. But if we don't face them and we don't sit with them, they get bigger, they take more control, they become more uncomfortable. And when we do take that time to sit with fear and sit with grief, we can learn how to coexist. We can learn how to appreciate the full range of our emotions and really appreciate what those emotions are telling us. I think fear and grief, I feel like, are on opposite ends of the timeline, where fear is before the loss. I'm afraid of losing something, and grief is after the loss. I'm afraid that you know, I'm missing, maybe I didn't experience enough of it, or the feeling of the loss. Like now I don't have the thing. And neither of them mean that the thing is bad. The thing we're fearing, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't engage with it. And the thing we're grieving, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have engaged with it. Both are just honoring that the experience was important to us, important enough to fear losing, and important enough to mourn it and grieve for it after it's gone. And again, it doesn't mean we should go back to it. It doesn't mean that we should, with fear, like go head first into every experience, but just recognizing, wow, I'm an emotional being. I find things to be important enough to have big emotions about them. And what a wonderful reminder that we are alive and well and feeling.
Yeah, because part of the human experience is feeling fear. It's feeling
Hmm.
anger. It's feeling
Hmm.
sadness. It's feeling depressed, down,
Hmm.
jealous, grief, worry, anxiety. It's all of these feelings that get coined as bad.
Yeah.
And really, what it is it's just the full spectrum of human emotions. How
Hmm.
much time you sit in those more negatively seeming emotions, I think makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to have them is very human.
Hmm.
And one thing that I got out of because we worked together for 4 weeks, I'm not promising anybody that you are going to get out of a relationship in 2 weeks. I got out of a relationship, I'm sorry, in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's not the go beyond guarantee.
Yeah, yeah. This is in 30 days and you're going to get out of that relationship. No,
Oh my God.
no, that's not what this is. It
No.
is unique to the individual. I tend to move fast. And I told Dex right from the start, like, once I know something to be so true in my heart, you better believe I'm the best student. Did I not tell you that?
You did, and you followed through.
Yes, sir. And you know what I loved about our experience, one of the many things I loved was that you went with it. You trusted me. You're like, "Okay, Kat, you say you're this, then that's who you are, and I
Hmm.
support it." You didn't try to change me. You didn't try to make me
Hmm.
feel bad. You didn't try to say like, "Well, maybe you should go like this." I remember you specifically saying like, "Your pace is your pace." And
Yeah.
and my pace is my pace, and it's all good. We're not gonna try to change people. We're gonna just, like, appreciate them for what they are and
Hmm.
how they move and what their pacing is, all of that. But, yeah, I think that when you work with Dex, you need to understand that this is a partnership. He's not going
Mm,
to do the work for you because he can't. I think that you're the guide. You're the
yeah.
sensei. You're the one who says, like, hey, I've got some tools that I've been using for a very long time, and they work really well for me, and they work really well for the other people who I've been blessed enough to be able to teach.
Hmm.
I'm going to share those tools with you, but you need to come with an openness, a flexibility, a wanting to do the work.
Yeah.
When you find that somebody is successful with achieving their goals that they create with you, how can they best set themselves up for success? What requirements need to be there?
I think top of the list is curiosity and coming in with a student's mindset of I don't have all the answers and I'm really curious for just more options. Not that, I can't remember where I heard this. I'm gonna look it up after this and find out the source because it's so good. But somebody called it the sin of certainty. And when we are certain about things, there goes our curiosity, there goes our ability to learn and change and grow and discover and have wonder and be open to new experience. And so the biggest block to growth is certainty, is judgment, is conclusion, is the period at the end of the sentence. So showing up to our sessions with questions rather than answers. And what you'll likely find is that I will join you in the questions. And there will be times where I will offer suggestions and certain tools that I've experienced success with. But like you experienced, I am not here to go, okay, we're going to change who you are or how you naturally approach things. Instead, I'm going to show up and go, "Who are you?" And I want to help you operate at the best, highest caliber of the who you are now, not learn how to be a different person and then learn how to be a good version of that different person. I want you to be you and then let's just elevate you. And so a lot of this work is going to be, I mean, our entire first session will be me just asking questions because I can't even start to think of how to guide anyone if I can't ask questions. And I'm going to show up with that same student mentality, eager to learn, eager to discover and have wonder and be curious and be open. And then I think that right after that, right after curiosity is okay, now we got to take action because we can talk about these ideas all day, but if you don't go test me, if you don't take what I'm talking about with you and try it out in real life and see what happens, we're never going to get any information out of it. It's just going to stay this nebulous of what if? Oh, wouldn't that be nice? This kind of ethereal, I wonder. It's so wonderful to wonder. I don't, that's a funny way to say it, but it's so healthy to wonder. It's so helpful to wonder. But if you don't take that wonder and try it in different contexts, you won't know if it's helpful or hurtful. You won't know where it's going to take you. It'll just stay a question mark. And then the last thing I think is come with kindness for yourself, for the process, and recognize that what we are doing is building a practice. And when we are practicing, we're supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to trip over ourselves. We're supposed to feel bad at it until we're good at it. And the harder we are on ourselves, the less likely we are to return to the work. So coming in with kindness and curiosity and prepared to take action, I think are the key ingredients to this coaching.
I love that, and I would say that makes perfect sense because maybe on by the second session, I had all of those key elements. Full disclosure,
Mm,
on the first session, I was definitely kind to myself in the process, but I also had a little bit of hesitation because we didn't know each other that well. And
yeah.
so I think it's vitally important that that first session that you do ask questions
Mhm.
and you get to learn about who you're working with because, I am unique to anybody else, the same way that they're unique from anybody else. And very quickly by session 2, I already trusted you. And that's when I was able to say, well, I said I wanted to work on my career, but really I want to work on making a decision in my relationship. And that's when like the truth came out.
Yeah.
This was the truth over here, the career, and it's still something that I'm looking at.
Hmm.
There are ultimately maybe higher priority truths that have to get dealt with first in
Yeah.
order to make space for the next thing you want to work on. So, what are some of the things that you know will not work if you're doing fear coaching with you?
Hmm.
What are some of the things that you see that have not worked and they're not super apparent?
Well, I think, reverse engineering and kind of repeating what I said before, but the sin of certainty will stop us in our tracks. Even if you're certain that I'm right, that's not helpful. Certain that you will get something specific out of the experience is not helpful. Even if it's positive. If you come in certain that we are going to fix your career, we're going to miss out on talking about your relationship. And so that certainty, even if it is geared towards a positive, really is a negative. It stops the truth from entering the conversation when it comes knocking. Another thing that I experienced, this is a very specific anecdote, and I think there's a way to generalize it, but I'll start with the anecdote. A few years ago, I ran my first ultra marathon and I connected it to a fundraiser for the Sierra Club. And as part of that, I offered coaching, a free one-time coaching session to anyone who donated a certain amount. And my whole family donated that certain amount. And this is, they were all very curious about what it was that I was doing with my fear coaching. And they came in to our sessions. There was one of my family members that specifically came in and was kind of, they weren't testing me, but they were there to and it wasn't that they were skeptical either. There was something about it that was, now that I'm really thinking about it, it might have been certainty as well. But they came into that session, and by the end of our conversation, I realized they were not talking with me with any real openness to learn something about themselves. The only reason they were on that call was to judge whether what I was doing was legitimate or not. So the call was to come to a conclusion about me. And I couldn't, it I couldn't put my finger on it in the conversation, but I knew I felt uncomfortable and I was very confused and I found myself doing things that I normally wouldn't do, like over giving advice and over speaking and over explaining. And like I was trying to prove myself is what I later recognized because I was being tested. And now I think that if I had that conversation again or got to like go back in time and with everything I know and have experienced now, that would have gone very differently. And either I would have been able to settle into my grounding and put my fear of like, oh, I'm not good enough and I'm being tested and I have to prove myself. I think I would have been able to move that aside and broken through to this person, or I would have set a boundary and recognized, been able to speak out loud what I was experiencing. Like, hey, it doesn't feel like you're actually here to learn something new about either of us. It feels like you've made a decision or you are trying to make a decision about the quality of this, and it's not in good faith. And, I'm a huge fan of skepticism. I think it's very important to have some skepticism in our lives, but coming in to try and like coming in with that intention that is anything other than growth and curiosity and again learning, just discovering, we can come to the conclusion. I have no qualms with coming to conclusion that we aren't a good fit for each other, but coming in and having that kind of "well, you better prove it" is not gonna benefit either of us on learning whether or not we are good for each other.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And I 100% have experienced that before. So I know what you're
Mm,
talking about. And I love that you mentioned that there are options for how you can handle that.
mm, mm,
I liked your last option with like setting boundaries and speaking
yeah,
your truth.
yeah.
And that can be hard. And as a fear coach, you would have to really put your practice to the test. You would have to perform,
Hmm. Yeah.
as you would say it.
Yeah. 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 And I was green at the time. I didn't have the practice to help me in that performance. And I would say I'd underperformed. I really allowed fear to take over in that moment. And I tried so hard to prove myself, and it came out in the exact opposite way. It really showcased how nervous and afraid I was. And thankfully, it was a practice because it was with a family member who, the stakes are low. We love each other, and and it, I wasn't giving a TED talk, and,
Right.
it wasn't like a career defining moment for me, but um, I did write an incident report about it, and I did look at it very clear, objectively, and think, okay, how could I do that differently and to an experience a more positive outcome?
Well, I love that. You're practicing what you preach, talking about the incident report. It's so
Mm,
funny because I think some of us do this when we're journaling,
hmm.
whether we're doing it by hand or on the computer. And I like your interpretation of an incident report. And I don't know if you want to share that or if you want to,
Sure.
yeah, okay. Talk about, because I think it's one of the best tools that you taught me. And I was already doing it for some of my jobs, but I
Hmm.
wasn't doing it for my journaling and
Mm,
not at least knowing what I was doing. When
hmm.
you know, when even if you're doing something accidentally, the way
Hmm.
that works really well for you, when you understand why you're doing it that way, like it just heightens the power so much more.
Hmm.
So, with that said, what's an incident report and why do you like using this tool?
Yeah. I learned about incident reports years and years ago when I was training for my wilderness first aid certification. And it was what you do after you need to apply your skills as a wilderness first aid. And so you have an experience, somebody is injured, you show up for them and help however you can. And once that chapter is closed and your job is done, you write down an outline of everything that happened. But what really strikes me about that type of reflection is how objective the reflection is. We're talking, what time did things happen? What was the temperature? What was the specific mechanisms at play? Who was there? Why were they there? What was the inciting incident that you were responding to? How did you respond to it? How did that impact the person you were responding to? And then how did you close it up? And from there, you look back at it not to judge or blame or shame, and not to brag either. If you do everything really well or if you had a lot of mess ups, the reason that we are so objective about it is so that you can see the patterns really clearly without all of that fluff of an opinion about the things that happened. And when you remove that fluff and you look at it objectively, I know that when I judge myself, I get defensive and I can't see or even conceptualize how I would do it better because I'm so caught up on the judgment and the shame and like, God, I should have done better. But if I take away that judgment, suddenly I'm looking at the incident and I'm going, I can just tweak things. Next time something like this happens, I can try a different approach, and that will allow me a different outcome. And then life goes on and I evolve and I get to do things better. And so, that has come up time and time again in my life in different scenarios. And so implementing that into the Go Beyond process has been a really valuable tool in allowing people to A, take a gentler approach in how they view themselves, and B, have a more organized way of evolving and growing and checking in with their past self and seeing how they can do better next time or how they can continue to do the good that they did.
I like that. I'm wondering if you're attracting in a certain type of client, meaning they have a certain type of fear that they are
Mm.
grappling with. And or is it a variety of fears? And can you give some example of the things, the challenges that you're working with? Um,
That's a great question. I am trying to attract anyone and everyone that is experiencing hangups because of their relationship with fear. And I've noticed that there is a through line so far in my clientele that they are very embodied people. And by that I mean people who are living an active life, whether it is cycling or physical training or training for a marathon or training to be a firefighter or any of the above. And I think part of the reason that is the case is because it's an actionable way to experience fear that is very visceral and embodied and very relatable to the mental conversation that we're having. So when we have these very broad conversations about emotions, we can relate them to the experience of a physical activity. It's a helpful metaphor. But right now, I actually, just yesterday, I had a call with a law group of employment lawyers, and they're going to book me to teach a workshop on building a positive relationship with fear to a group of lawyers. And I don't know what their background will be in terms of their relationship with movement, but that is not the launching point of our conversation. And so it will be interesting to connect with those people. And I would love to, I really want to connect with everyone. I've worked with doctors before. I worked with one, a CPA. I don't think that there's anywhere in the human race where fear is not present. And I'm gonna address that in the background right now. My dog is trying to eat a fly, and he's stealing my attention away, and I need to address it so that I can let it go.
Yes, I love
But
that.
he is settled down now, so we're good. But yeah, so to answer your question, I would love to invite truly anyone from all walks of life into the conversation because I think it applies to everyone who is a human being.
Dex, what makes you different from a therapist?
Oh, good question. I am different from a therapist. One, because of my training. I did not come to this point as a fear coach through academia, and I think that's really important to know. I also think it's important to be curious about why academia is often seen as the only way to knowledge. But what really sets my work and my approach aside from therapy is that my job is not geared around coming to conclusions about the past. My job is about forming an actionable path into the future. And while the past will come up in our conversations, therapy is a very delicate way of processing the past so that we can open ourselves up to a different future. And my process is about coming from an open place and creating a positive practice into the future. And I would really recommend to anyone who is experiencing hardships in life to try out therapy and to go to therapy and see if that is something that is helpful. And I also have had a number of clients who have come to me directly after or while doing therapy because there is a difference in those approaches.
There certainly is, and I can attest to that because I have a longtime therapist that I've been working with, and she speaks in a whole different language than you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Energy's different, her vibe is different, her knowledge is different, and it's really nice to have both of you,
Yeah.
actually, because your insights are complementary, and I don't think that one person has all the answers. I really don't. I don't think you have all the answers. I don't think she has all the answers, but I think that I do. And the wider I cast my net and the stronger team I create around me will
Mm-hmm.
only help me to arrive to those answers quicker and with more confidence. And so I think
Absolutely.
that your work is very complementary, but I will share that if you're doing the work the way that I did it, you are going to be vulnerable. You're going to be raw. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable at times, the same way it feels in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, I could see how people could blur the lines and say, well, how is Dex different from, a therapist? The feelings around it are very similar. Just full
Mm-hmm.
disclosure, like it's going to feel similarly, but
Yeah.
like you said, you're working on what is now and where you want to go, and that is around fear, which I love that we're being specific and we're just naming it right off the bat. We're going to work with fear. And
Yeah.
everybody, if you're human and you're alive, you're dealing with fear. I don't care who you are and I don't care what you've accomplished. You have dealt
Hmm.
with fear and you are dealing with fear.
Hmm.
So, with that said, what are some other things that you want to share about you, your coaching process, and what your intention is with clients that you think people should consider while they're thinking about working with you?
I think it's important to extend an invitation. And my work right now is really focused on trying to bridge this gap. And so I think that if anyone is hearing this and is experiencing curiosity and is experiencing the maybe that could be helpful, maybe that's interesting, I want to let you know that the hardest part of the entire process is reaching out to me. And I think the reason is because you don't have anyone to coach you through that part. It's the moment before we connect. And it is terrifying to reach out to someone who you don't know with the expectation that we are going to really talk about important vulnerable things. And so my invitation is, if you're curious, follow that thread of curiosity and know that there is no ultimate commitment in reaching out to me. You are not committing to the process. You are not committing to the coaching container. It is just a curiosity conversation, and I'm going to show up with that same curiosity, and we're going to together discover if it's appropriate or not. And there will be no hard feelings if it's not. And there's a lot of really wonderful stuff waiting on the other side of that uncomfortable feeling of reaching out to somebody and taking a risk for yourself. But you are absolutely important enough to receive help, and I am here to offer that help.
And again, if you're listening to this right now, this might be the sign that you've been waiting for, that you have at least two people right here, right now, who care and believe in you.
Absolutely.
And we're both here for you. Ah, that was a big sigh.
That was good. It was a good breath.
It's so funny because while you're talking, I'm trying so hard. And I had this issue in a previous podcast where you're just dropping so many diamonds that I get caught up on them. And I'm trying to think like, oh, well, I want to talk about this instead of being present. I know. And you also liked it when I put you in the same sentence as Oprah. Was with how delighted you were by that. Dex, was that you?
Oh my god.
Who said that? And you
Oh
just
my gosh.
that came out was just so genuine.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that made my heart sing.
Yeah, okay,
So
good.
sweet.
My objective. I want to make people's hearts sing. Awesome. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that you want to share. You know what might be nice?
Tell me.
What is one fear, if you don't mind sharing,
Hmm.
that you are personally dealing with now?
Fear that is a theme in my life. It's a double-edged sword. And when I'm tired, I have a harder time managing it. And when I am energized, I can catch it pretty quick. But I have a fear of commitment in that I am a person that lives very, very much in the present moment. And what that means is that when things are going really well, it feels like they will always be going well. And when things are challenging, it feels like they will always be challenging. And so the fear that comes up is when things are challenging and I am tired, the fear is this going to be the way it is forever? Have I lost this other part of myself? And that has been manifested as a new parent. And when my baby girl River is crying for the fifth time at 3 in the morning, and I have not slept at all, and I need to go and give her love because she has no idea what's going on in the world. And I think to myself, is this forever? Is this is this what the rest of my life is going to be? And yeah, it's a challenge every single time. There are times where I am so I've just like prepared for it. I'm like, it's gonna be a hard night. Let's go. And every time she cries, I'm there and I'm like taking deep breaths and giving her an example of how to calm the nervous system down and letting her feel my calm and my love. And there are other times where I'm holding her and I am petrified and my heart is pounding and I feel like I'm not doing enough, and I'm terrified that I won't ever be able to do enough forevermore. And yeah, it's because I am a fear coach does not mean that I am not experiencing fear or that I am experiencing fear with 100% success rate. It just means that I will never turn away from the experience.
I wanted to show y'all that Dex is human and Dex has I
It's
really
true.
appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that because I know that a lot of new parents can attest to that. Parents of children or dogs or cats or pets in general, you can apply that to so many areas of your life, like the job
Absolutely.
that is it always going to feel like this? Or the
Absolutely.
relationship, is it always going to feel like this?
Hmm.
Or the relationship with your parents, and the bickering and all of those feelings that you don't like. I
Hmm.
appreciate you sharing what you're going through. And I
Of
just
course.
love how you said that you're always going to show up. You're here for it.
Mhm.
If it feels that way, okay, it feels that way. And I'm still showing up.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
going to do the work like you did today by being here when you're sleep deprived. You know? I'm sure that you would rather I don't know. I think you come with a good attitude, and I think that that helps when you're working with someone when you're working with fear.
Yeah. I'll tell you, a nap sounded good, but talking about what I love with someone I really respect and am inspired by sounded way better.
I love that. It's kind of reminding me about something we had talked about. Like, you see this happen with dogs, for example.
Mm.
When you're playing fetch with your dog and the dog just keeps going and going and going and going until they are just completely pooped and they just
Hmm.
crash. They can't go
Hmm.
anymore because they gave all they can and they
Yeah,
sleep so well and so deeply and they just seem so at peace and they are the best kind of tired. That's the kind of tired I want to be. The fact that you're tired from taking care of your baby girl to me seems like a really good tired. From
it
having to
is.
turn on the neurons so that we can be focused and be in this conversation right now and hopefully reach lots of beautiful people. That requires brain power and you may be tired after this, but I hope you sleep like a dog. I hope that you rest deeply and your heart feels full.
Me too. Me too. I think I will.
Dex, is there anything else that you want to share with anybody who's listening today?
Something that came up that I thought of today uh, was a realization of potential, of the word potential. When you ask what is building a positive relationship with fear, what is it that I'm trying to achieve with when I work with people? And I say, I think that if we build a positive relationship with fear, we can achieve our best potential. And I was thinking about what is potential. And in one way, it is the possibility of realizing an action or a quality of life. But really, potential is another way, is a really positive way to frame the unknown. And when I look at all of the conversations I've had about fear and all of the different things that people say triggers their fear, the unknown is top of the list. And really, what we're trying to do is help people recognize the best version of their unknown and that they can have an impact on the probability of the quality of their unknown. And a simpler way to say that is we want your best potential. We want to tap into your best unknown. And because I don't know what the potential is, it could be anything, but we can engage with that potential and with that unknown. And something that you said in one of our sessions was that you were experiencing the unknown with joy, that you were excited about the next chapter of unknown. And I think it's that shift. Building a positive relationship with fear allows us to shift away from looking at the unknown as this scary thing to seeing it as potential for our future.
That's such a good point because I totally feel that. When the future is unknown, you really get to decide how you're going to look at that. And for
Hmm.
me, it is filled with possibility. And I know
Yeah.
in the past, when fear was more present in a way that was overbearing and clouded what was really there, which was always possibility, it can
Mhm.
make me doubt that that
Mhm.
there's anything good.
Yeah.
And so I love and appreciate that you mentioned that because right now I don't know what's coming, but I believe that it's all good,
Mhm.
and it makes me excited about it, and it makes me more focused on living in the present moment because then I don't have to worry about, well, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? There is no
Mhm.
what if. There's just right now. There's just this moment right here. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what it is that you do, and I hope that people are inspired to reach out and do something lovely for themselves that could potentially transform their lives in an incredible way. Dex, how long does somebody have to work with you in order to, I don't know, achieve any kind of results? And I don't know if you have an answer to that, but what do you have a rough idea of what you would recommend?
I don't know. It all depends on the individual, but what I recommend is an 8-week commitment. And that will allow us to first unpack all of the tools that the Go Beyond process has to offer, get to know each other enough to be able to apply those tools in a unique and personalized way, and start to apply those tools with real action and check in with each other and make adjustments and recognize the patterns and build the path forward. So that's really the kind of full arc of the coaching is let's get to know each other so we know the foundation. Let me introduce you to the tools and then let's try them out and make adjustments. And that takes about 8 weeks, but that's a 1 hour session each week for 8 weeks. And of course, at the end of that 8 weeks, if it feels like we're just scratching the surface, we can keep going. And also, if you're anything like Kat, and you dive in head first at 100 miles an hour, maybe it only takes a couple sessions before you get some really life-changing results, but it is unique to the individual.
It sure is. I just wanted to give people a rough idea because
I
people
appreciate
like
it.
knowns. We were just talking
Mhm.
about unknowns. People like knowns. They want to know
They
like
do.
what do I need? What kind of investment do I need
Yeah.
to make? And
Hmm.
just be open to the possibility that it could be more or it could
Yeah,
be less. And the most
absolutely.
important thing that Dex said today was like, show up, show up. Once you show up, that's the hardest part. Done.
Mm.
Then you've got your guide there, and then the real magic begins. Dex, I want to thank
That's
you
right.
so much for being here and making the time, considering all of the little hiccups. And I like hiccups as opposed to challenges, by the way
Hmm.
we encounter. It worked out exactly the way that it was supposed to. And I really appreciate you and what you're standing for and what you're doing to help.
Thank you, Kat. I am overwhelmed with gratitude for you as well. Thank you for platforming this conversation and helping me spread the word. And thank you so much for your curiosity and trust in the process. It's truly been an honor to work with you.
Well, it's my pleasure and I appreciate you.
Likewise.